Hi, I'm Donna Whitesel, and I'm a North Fulton Master Gardener in Fulton County, Georgia. And I'm here to talk to you about gardening activities for children. I'd like you to think about the children you work with. Are you a caregiver, a teacher, a parent, a grandparent? Are your children young or are they in school? Each child has different needs, different cognitive styles of learning. So we'll cover all of that in this presentation. Make sure that on this live Facebook presentation, if you have a question, you can put it into the comment section and we will cover it at the end. So let's get started. What we're going to discuss today is all about kids, particularly the early childhood ages, which is 0 to 7. Those children might have some specific needs when it comes to doing gardening activities and learning. Our projects today will cover all of the things we can do to teach our child about plants. We'll be making and creating things. We'll be growing and gardening, and we'll also be exploring the area so that they can have go places to learn. So all about kids. There I am with my MG Sprouts class, which is a library project that is a collaborative effort between the county library and the 4-H program and the UGA Master Gardener program. And the kids are having lots of fun, as you can see there, because they are loving what they're doing in an age-appropriate activity. You can expect 1 minute or maybe 2 minutes of attention span for your child. If they are 4 years old, 4 to 8 minutes of intense concentration with no diversions, with no distractions, and with no antsiness. If your child is learning through their 5 senses, they're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, they need this hands-on experience because that is how they learn at this age. Early childhood experiences form a lifetime foundation for knowledge, for interests, and for vocabulary. And when children have fun, they want to repeat that activity and do it again and again. Children are very process-oriented. They're not product-oriented. So they just love doing what they're doing. And they don't necessarily have something at the end they want to accomplish. Make sure that you have all the equipment for your child. You want to invest in some good gloves that fit their hands. You want to give them some tools that they can use in the garden, and it will be child-sized just to fit their needs. So let's get started with projects for learning. Nature's straw, which is xylem. We are going to make a botanical wristband, grow an avocado seed, watch a bean germinate, and we're going to teach you about watering and harvesting with young ones. Our first project for learning is the celery experiment, where we see the phloem and xylem actually working within the plant. What do the children learn? Well, how does that water get up to the leaves? What are the names of the plants, the parts of the plants, and how long does it take for this to happen? You can identify colors, which for very young ones is an educational project. So here we have our celery, and you can see the xylem, which is showing at the cut end of the celery. And in this experiment, you start with some clear plastic cups and you put some food coloring in them. The food coloring needs to be fairly saturated in the water so that it will be evident as the water is drawn up through the celery stalk. This is a plain old package of food coloring, but it does not have purple in it. So we're making purple by using blue and red. You have to stir that so that the water is evenly distributed, the color is evenly distributed throughout the water. And once that is complete, then you're going to get your celery. Make sure it's a fresh celery, freshly cut, and leaves at the top for this experiment. You'll put it in each cup so that each celery stalk has its own color that it will have coming up to the leaves. You're going to have to wait quite a while for this, maybe a week. And the child will check it every day to see what's happening in this celery stalk. After the colors rise up to the top, you'll start to see changes in the leaves. The blue leaves or the green leaves show blue throughout them. The green is more intense. The yellow has changed the color completely of the leaves. And the purple shows up as well as the red, which doesn't show up as well here, but normally it does a better job. And finally, look at the xylem, nature straw. That's a wonderful experiment to do with your child. Now, if they'd like to do a botanical wristband, or maybe call it a flower bracelet, you can do this with very young children. Here is a completed one. And when we do this, we're going to teach flower parts, petals, and leaves, reinforce colors, give those little ones a sense of accomplishment, as well as give them a quick project for their short attention spans. And they'll have success with this. Now, first, you're going to start with your flowers, which you can get from your yard or you can get at the grocery store in a bouquet. And deconstruct the flower. Kids love doing this, pulling all the petals off, pulling the leaves off, talking about the colors, talking about the parts of the flower. Then you take your duct tape, and your duct tape needs to be sticky side up. So ignore that word down there. And you're going to let the child select the leaves, select the petals, create a design all on their own without any help. Talk about what color it is, what part of the plant it is, and they have fun doing it, and they like it so much they want to do another one and another one. So this is one of those repeat activities because they like doing it. Once they've filled it all in, you want to check for loose petals and put it around their wrist. The sticky part will then stick together to adhere it to their wrist, and you can add one extra little piece to complete so no sticky parts are showing. And there it is. This little 3-year-old boy made this, and he was so proud of it and so had so much fun doing it. He wanted to make one for his Nana and for his aunt, and we ended up with 3 of them. So it was a successful activity for a very young child to learn. Next, we talk about the root view. Now, as you can see in this picture, there's a root view container that shows what happens below and above the soil. This is pretty fancy, and you can buy one of these, or you can use a plain old plastic cup. We're going to germinate some bean seeds to show you as an example. The kids love to look at germination, and it takes about 15 minutes to do this project, but about 14 days to complete it to the plant. Watch the sprouting of the roots and stem and leaves. First, you take a Ziploc bag, and then, or you can take a plastic cup. Get yourself a damp paper towel that you insert in the bag or into the cup. Make sure it stays moist. Place that bean seed along the side so it's visible, and then you put it in a sunny window, not too cold if it's the winter time. And finally, keep that paper towel moist, which might be your job as the adult. Finally, in about 14 days, the bean is going to germinate, and it will grow leaves in the stem, and it will bring you to another activity. Let's grow an avocado tree. Sure, let's go to the grocery store, because vegetables are plants. So seeds come in all shapes and sizes. Vegetables come from seeds that grow into plants. Seeds need water to begin their growth, and all plants begin with seeds, or in some cases, spores. But the top end of the seed will need to stay dry. The bottom end will be in the water, as you see here, and eventually the roots will grow into the water. You can lift it up every day and check, are there any roots yet? And finally, the stem will begin to grow, and then finally leaves. And you'll have your avocado plant that you can put into a pot with soil. Now, watering is something children love to do. And they have different sizes of watering cans, a small one such as this one for a preschooler, or a larger one for an older child who can handle a little bit of weight, or even a hose. And finally, you're going to teach them how to assess how much water, is going into the pot to produce a nice moist soil, and don't let them do it unless the soil is dry. They need to learn these concepts of growing plants. So in this video, you'll see there's a pitcher, and this child has a watering can, and they're watering on a balcony. So you don't have to have a big garden out there. You can grow plants right here on your balcony, or you can grow them on your deck, your porch, or if you have a yard, out in your yard. All of those things are part of being a gardener. Teach them how to saturate the soil with their watering can or hose, and they'll be part of the process of the success of the garden. If you're growing vegetables, harvesting is a great way to get the kids involved. This particular video will show how vocabulary is built during harvesting. And this child's going to say the words ripe, green, red, yellow, pick, tomatoes, and peppers. This child will be counting and saying how many tomatoes he finds, and identifying whether they're ripe or not ripe, and associating those plants with food and learning to be patient to get the next one. So this video shows another deck garden. This is actually a pizza garden up on a deck. And this is a 3-year-old who's helping his grandmother pick tomatoes.
Those are still green. Oh, yeah. Do you want me to hold them?
Yeah, and I can eat this one.
Sure, you can find them.
I see some right here.
You see them? Can you pick them?
I picked them.
Do I have 1 or 2?
2. And the ones that are yellow too?
Not yet. Those are green. And those are peppers.
Are they hot?
Nope.
And now he gets to eat, and he loves the tomato, and he will become a tomato gardener when he grows up, I suspect. All right, now we need to go to the next slide. Here we go. Now this is making and creating. Some children love to do things that they have after all the work they put into it. They've got a product. So this is making a pot. We're going to decorate a pot. And all ages can do this depending on the materials that you use. So young children can use googly eyes or stickers or stick-on objects. And older children can handle acrylic paint. As you can see here, you can use stencils to make letters. You can actually use a non-water-based paint to stick things on, or just make beautiful designs. And then if you make a face on the pot, growing grass looks like hair, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Plant markers are something you can do. And later on in this presentation, I'll show you some outside gardens that you might need your plant markers for. This particular marker you see here is just a tongue depressor with a permanent marker writing the word peas. But you can use popsicle sticks as well. You can take a mini blind, those old-fashioned ones that are plastic, and cut them down to size, write words on them. Also on an index card taped to a straw or a dowel that you stick into the soil. And finally, if you don't have any of those things, just get a plastic fork and put your index card in the tines of the fork, stick the handle in. And those are ways to identify what you have planted. Here you see tongue depressors that they're pretty fancy. They've been painted with white paint and written with a permanent marker. Here you see seed packets taped onto a popsicle stick and put in the ground. And finally, we have our plastic jug. It's a milk jug that's cut into plant marker shapes. That might be an adult activity if it's young children. Now let's talk about seed tape. An easy way for your child to plant seeds in the garden. First thing you're going to need is a marker, a ruler, 2 tablespoons of white flour, 1 tablespoon of water, single ply toilet paper or strips of newsprint, or you can, and you'll need your seeds and toothpicks. So take your seed tape that you're going to make, take your paper and pick out what seeds you're going to plant. This is a list over here of plants that work really well with children because they're a little bit bigger, except for marigold seeds, which are smaller for a little bit older children. When you make your seed tape, you're going to mix that flour and water to make the glue or paste, and that's completely biodegradable, and it doesn't hurt the seed. Unroll the paper and flatten it so you have strips about 1, 2, or 3 feet long, depending on the age of your child. Measure the distance and mark it with a little dot that you do with your marker, and that shows where you're going to glue the seed. And then you glue it on the paper using a toothpick to manipulate that paste right where you want it. Allow that glue to dry after you put the seed on and plant it. You just put a trench in the ground, a long trench at the length of your paper. And if it's 2 inches deep, you make a 2-inch trench. They put their paper in and cover it with soil, and you're done. So it's a great way to get the plants, the distance between the plants in the right place. Fairy gardens are my favorite thing, or gnome homes. So much fun to make. And when you create a fairy garden, you want to gather that soil, have everything ready. So when your child is ready to do it, they're not watching you or waiting for you to bring it all together. It's ready to go. Get your little figurines, get your plants, get other fun things such as glass pebbles, plastic beads, twigs, moss, seashells, whatever you have, and be creative with this. This is for all ages. And when you make your fairy garden, make sure you get a container with drainage holes at the bottom. Then you get a container mix that's good for the plants. If it has mycorrhizae at the bottom or in the mix, it will help the plants grow. Mycorrhizae is actually a fungus that promotes root function and water intake. So if you can find that, it will help the plants grow well. And here are some figurines. Now you can get figurines on the internet. You can get them at the dollar store when the season becomes spring and they put out their gardening objects. Some garden centers also carry them, but it'll take you a while to bring all this together and gather it, and do this before the child comes over or you work with them. These are some things that I bought for my fairy garden. I found a little mushroom and some reindeer moss, silk flowers, pebbles, gravel, beads. And then I went and bought some plants at the garden center that in the terrarium section, because you want them to be small plants and you want them to have small leaves, because you want to have that scale of tiny leaves that match the tiny figurines. And you can also take cuttings from your yard. If you've got some plants, you could just root them right in the soil. When you're planting, you want to be sure to put down a tarp, because they're going to make a mess. So you don't want that to be an issue. Let the child fill the container with soil and roll down the sides of the bag, as you can see in this picture, so they can reach the soil. And then finally, install the plants and say their botanical name. Talk about the plant as you plant, because the child is learning about horticulture here. Now, when you decorate your garden, first thing you want to, you want to create a stream or lake with glass beads or pebbles or gravel. You also want to tuck those objects and figurines in after your scene is created, and you want to have an idea of what your design is going to be. Your child will want to play with this, so don't make it hands off. Let them manipulate those little objects and just have make-believe in their fairy garden. Here's 2 completed fairy gardens that we did. The one on the top left has a little stream, and the one on the bottom left has a lot of glass beads, which were so fun to put in. But every fairy garden will be different, and it will be your signature fairy garden after you make it. We did it. And finally, if you don't want to make a fairy garden, you want to make a gnome home or a dino land garden, whatever your child's interests are, you can put in this garden and use the same method as I said, how to put it all together. But the difference will be the objects you place in there. And for it to be more rugged, you want rocks and barks and toadstools, and succulents make a good plant for that, as well as a volcano if you can put one of those in. So have fun with that fairy garden project. Now we're going to be growing and gardening. We're going to do a hairy pizza garden, soda bottle terrarium, and a sunflower house. This pizza garden is something you'll have to do either in pots on your deck or outside in your yard. This particular design, though, has to be in a yard. So you're going to have a fun themed garden for your child. You have to have 6 to 8 hours of sun, though, and you have to create a circle 4 feet to 6 feet in diameter. Amend the soil with compost. If needed, get yourself a soil test from the county extension office, and then you'll know exactly what nutrients to put in that soil to make it really healthy. And finally, you're going to divide that circle that you've dug up into 6 triangular slices, and you can use any material you want to divide it, sticks or stones or wood. And then finally, you'll plant that garden. You have 6 triangles. One will have a tomato plant or 2, a pepper plant or 2. You put some basil, some oregano, some parsley, and if you want, some onion plants. This is a springtime garden that you'll be doing because these plants grow in the summer. Some people like to leave one slice empty, and then the child can enter the pizza and it helps them to reach the plants. It looks like someone took a piece out of the pie. Here's an example. This one is a round garden out in the yard with 6 slices with the plants placed in there so that they can know where to put them. How many plants can you fit in your garden? Well, you'll have to determine that depending on the size. Don't crowd them because they do grow bigger as they grow. Stake up the tomato plants. Marigolds are sometimes put in because they're supposed to be ward off pests. And you can add those plant markers that you made earlier with your child. And then finally, you want to mulch. Don't touch the plants with the mulch, but it will keep the weeds down. It will keep the soil cooler, and it will keep the weeds out. So mulching is a really good idea. You can visit this YouTube channel at the bottom of your screen, and that's for a no-dig garden if you want to do this without digging in the soil. And it's also a pizza garden in a container. Those are other options from what I just said. And now it's time to eat. So there you have your basil, your tomatoes, your peppers, and you make yourself a pizza from what you've grown. And guess what? Your child will be more apt to eat something they've grown. So it's a great idea for nutrition as well. Our plastic bottle terrarium can be either a soda bottle or a water bottle, any kind of plastic clear bottle. And it can be done with young children, toddlers, preschoolers, teaches them about growing and caring for plants. It can be done in the winter, and it gives them a great vocabulary of what you're doing with this project. Condensation and moisture are big words for them. Gather your items for your terrarium. You'll need a soda bottle and some tiny plants, pebbles, gravel, or marbles, sharp scissors for the adult, and a plastic spoon. I also recommend using charcoal granules and peat moss, and you can get these at your garden center, but they aren't absolutely necessary for your project. The first thing you're going to do is cut the bottom half of the plastic bottle, soda bottle, so that you're creating a small container. You may need to poke a hole with the tip of the scissors to get that started, and that should be an adult. And then add pebbles for drainage. Finally, you're going to add a thin layer of charcoal granules above the pebbles. This keeps odors from developing. It also is a filter for the water. And then add a layer of peat moss. If you don't want to use peat moss, you can use a coffee filter on top of that so that the soil doesn't go down into the rocks. And then you add your soil on top of all those things. You've got 3 to 4 inches of soil. And finally, you're going to select the plants to be added. And you can use a little spoon. The child can do this and make a hole, put the plant in, take care of the roots, and then gently push it into the soil. And then finally, you're going to put the top on. And if the top doesn't fit easily, make a couple of cuts, one on either side, to allow that top to fit tightly in there. It's a great winter project. Keep the cap on, because guess what? It creates its own weather. Look at the condensation on this bottle, and it rains onto the plants. So it's a really good project for children, and it's really good in the wintertime when you can't go outside and garden in your yard. Hairy or grassy grace are really fun to do. Teach your child that growing plants can be fun. Let them use their imagination. And after the grass grows, guess what? They can cut their hair. So when you make your hairy head pot, create a face on a pot using markers, paint, stick-on eyes, or stickers. Make sure that you add good container soil to the pot and sprinkle seeds, grass seeds, wheatgrass, rye, or catgrass. These are available in a small seed packet at your garden center, or you might have them from your yard if you planted grass recently. Water to moisten the soil, place in a sunny window, and wait for that grass to grow. Here's a very simple one that a young child did, and now they get to cut the hair with a pair of scissors, and that's the most fun part. How about a sunflower house? If you've got 6 to 8 hours of sun in your yard and a space to do this, it's very rewarding to do with children. In your sunny spot, you're going to need to put 3 varieties of sunflowers, and you'll need 2-inch deep trench in the shape of a ring or a rectangle. And finally, you're going to incorporate compost into that soil. Sunflowers are heavy feeders, so they need good soil to start with. And then you'll plant these concentric rings of 3 heights of plants. Don't forget, you have to have a door so you can go into your sunflower house, and I'll show you how to do this. If you look on the right, you'll see a circular sunflower house, and that's the ring I was talking about where they've planted the seeds. The one on the left at the top is a rectangular shape and actually has a fence and a door. And then the one at the bottom is just what it looks like after it's grown, the circular one. You want to plant those seeds about 6 inches apart. There is your seed tape. And you want to plant them about 2 inches deep. Put the tallest ones on the inside, then the medium height plants next to those, and on the outside of the ring facing you would be the short ones. And they do appreciate fertilizer all summer. So a balanced 10-10-10 throughout the summer would really help them grow well. Now let's talk about the sunflowers. There's so many different varieties. So this 12-foot one, this mammoth, Russian mammoth, that's a seed packet from it. And then the 5 to 8-foot ones, this is the Valentine, this is the Evening Sun, this is the Velvet Queen. They're beautiful, and they'll be, the mid-size. And then the short ones, the little dwarf ones, are Elf, Music Box, Mix, which is different colors, and Sundance. And then they all grow, and your child will want to go in there and feel the coolness and smell the plants. And it's a very sensory activity. Finally, you're going to get all these sunflowers. What are you going to do with these seeds? Well, you can feed the birds, you can roast them and eat them. You can make a seed mosaic picture because there'll be some different colors of seeds as well. Save them for next year so you can plant them again, or you can top them with bread or top bread or muffins with them to add some nutrition. And what a fun project this is. Now, the top 20 plants for kids to grow, and they each have their own special properties. For instance, the lamb's ears are fuzzy. The evening primroses open in the evening. The moon vine is an evening vine that's white and it looks like a moon. And, you know, there's sunflowers and berries and carrots that you pull out of the ground. So all of these have a special thing for the child to learn about growing. And if you find this book, Roots, Shoots, Buckets, and Boots, it tells you how to grow all of these things and how they will help your child learn about horticulture and gardening. And now we're going to explore just a little bit. You're going to take your little gardener to places to reinforce everything they've learned and to learn some new things as well. For instance, the garden center where you go already. Just bring them with you and talk about the colors, the blooms, the smell, the touch of different plants, learn the names, smell the roses, and you can even give them a little instruction into flower names and perennials and annuals, sun and shade, gardening products, tools. So this is a great place to teach them. Now, if you're going to get a pumpkin for Halloween, I suggest finding a pumpkin patch where they actually grow them. They get to see the pumpkins growing on the vine, and it's really a rewarding experience for them. Take a walk in the woods. We have woods all over Atlanta. We have old growth forests here, which are just a jewel for our city. Big Trees Preserve in Sandy Springs is an old growth forest, has paths through it, and it's quiet and beautiful with birds and all kinds of butterflies. Or you can go to Fern Bank. All these things listed here have their own special special things for your child to learn as they enter the woods. This particular picture is my granddaughter with me looking at some May apples, which only grow in an old growth forest. Activities in the forest, what can you do? Just take a walk? Oh no, you can do a lot more than that. Make it a really rewarding experience by taking a sensory walk where you look at the leaves, the bark, the flowers, smell the fresh air, and talk about, can you find 3 things you see? What do you smell? Let's see what we can hear. And you can make it into a fun activity that way, or just collect leaves, particularly this time of year. The leaves are starting to change color. And if you remember, at least when I was a child, we would take leaves and iron them between wax paper and make a sun catcher that we would put in the window. And of course, they need adult help for that if they're young. A scavenger hunt, give them a list. Find an acorn, find a tree stump, see if they can check off the list of all the things they see in the forest. Or bring a picnic, make it into a delicious and educational activity. Sit under the tree canopy and just enjoy yourself. If you're an older child and you really love trees, you can get a tree ID book and identify all the trees that you see in the forest. Sometimes children just want to dig. They just love to dig. So I was requested to go out and dig for dinosaur bones, which I did with my grandson, and we found in 30 minutes, this is what I'm talking about with learning. We found worms. We talked about soil composition. We dug up a beetle, discovered tree roots, saw a birdling nearby. It was a brown thrasher, and he's going through looking for bugs to eat. We filled a bucket with dirt, which he lifted and said, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. And then he wondered, wow, there's a lot going on underground that I didn't even know about. But we did not find any dinosaur bones. So it was successful in other ways. You want to visit a botanical garden, go to the Atlanta Botanical Garden, Gibbs Garden. Gainesville has a botanical garden now, and also the State Botanical Garden of Georgia is in Athens. Callaway Garden has amazing azaleas, but anywhere you go with your child, you'll see some fantastic things that they will learn. And here's my grandson also, and at the Botanical Garden, Atlanta Botanical Garden has a children's garden. There are slides to go down, there are rope bridges to go across, and lots of activities there. Chattahoochee Nature Center is a place that is just another jewel in our city, and members enter for free, but so you can become a member and go as often as you'd like. They have programs for all ages, outdoors and in. They rescue birds which live there, and they have indoor exhibits with hands-on displays. It's a great place to explore. In fact, at the Chattahoochee Nature Center, every February, they have their enchanted forest, where they have people make fairy houses and bring them to the forest, and they are 30 or 40 of them. So you have to find them throughout the forest, and it's a really fun activity to do with your kids. If you have a county fair nearby, let your child enter something in the county fair. They can enter a plant, an herb, something they've made with plants, or even drawings. And this is my grandson who actually won the grand champion ribbon, as you can see him pointing at it. And he made low sugar strawberry jam all by himself. I helped him pour the hot jam in the jar, that's all. And he was so proud of himself. Now you can attend a class if you're a child. Where do you go? Well, the local library, that's the MG Sprouts right there where I'm teaching them. Farmers markets have programs, nature centers, fairs, festivals, 4-H, school gardens. All of these places are places for your child to learn. The MG Sprouts program, it's literature-based, and it's a horticultural program for children. It's 6 classes run by Master Gardeners, and the University of Georgia provides all of the 4-H materials, and the library provides the space, and it's all about the books that they read, and then you do a project. You see here, they've grown a plant and decorated a pot, and they were so happy about it. Little Diggers is a program that takes place in Sandy Springs at the farmers market on one Saturday a month, Milton Farmers Market on Wednesday evenings. So you can check in these places on the web, you know, when they're going to happen. Here you can see somebody making a little terrarium with a fairy in it, and this is one of those hairy Harrys that they decorated. So lots of great activities going on at farmers markets. Now finally, beekeeping. Now, if you're into beekeeping, you can get a little tiny beekeeper suit for your child, and they can help you learn about bees with adult supervision and about pollination and hive activity, all the wonderful things about beekeeping, and they can get involved in the honey production as well. Reinforce all that learning that you've done with books. And there are lots of books out there that are just wonderful and fun to read. And your child would like to sit in your lap and read a book with you to reinforce what they've learned in their horticultural activities. So I hope that you have a happy gardening experience with your little sprout, and make sure that you keep on gardening with them, and they will become stewards of the earth, and we will really love to have them in years to come when they grow up. Here are some resources for you. This is the UGA Extension website. Go there. There's lots of publications about growing things and working with kids. And Master Gardeners also have a website you can check. Thank you to our promotional partners, and they've helped us get the word out about all of our classes. Thank you to our media partners, because they have done the same. And finally, we can take questions. Mary, do we have any questions?
No, ma'am. Sorry, I couldn't find unmute. We do not have any questions. covered it very thoroughly. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I just want to let you know that there is a winter vegetable planting demonstration taking place on October 24th. That's a Sunday at 2 p.m. And you will be seeing how to grow vegetables throughout the winter in Georgia. And then after that, there'll be a cool season flowers beyond pansies presentation by me. And that's on Sunday, November 7th at 2 p.m. These are live, but they also are recorded and they will be on our YouTube channel available for you to view. So make sure that when you get your email after viewing this, because you had to register, you will be able to see it again. Thank you so much and happy gardening to you.